Hello, and thanks for coming. This is Crossing Bridges, the talk show. I'm your host, Larry Montgomery Sr. This evening, I'm alone this evening, and this is a part of life. And there are two things that we like to talk about this evening. One is from the King James Version of the Bible, Ephesians 6 and 2. And the second item I want to talk about is from 1 Timothy 5 in the King James Version, verses 5. No, I'm sorry, chapter 5, 1, 2, 3. And let me preface this before we get started here. I'm not going to be before you long because I don't think it requires a lot of time to just point out a couple of things of interest. As a father, grandfather, and great-grandfather, son, brother, and so on, all I can do is do the best that I can and offer it to you that as long as you try to do the best that you can, everything else is pretty much up to God. People in their lives, either on purpose or without forethought, may do something or say something that someone else is not happy with. They may feel disrespected. And unfortunately, or fortunately, respect is something that is earned. And it's earned every time you open your mouth. And respect is something that is not necessarily permanent because we have free will. But for those of us who understand what respect is, I think it's clear that since we're all human and we do make mistakes from time to time, even if they're only perceived mistakes, we look back at ourselves, we look back at what was done and how it was done, and we evaluate that, and then we make adjustments if necessary, and we move on. Sometimes it requires that we return to the scene of the crime and make clear our understandings or our afterthoughts of what may have occurred. Those of you who follow clearly know that the show primarily had featured me and my children and one of my sons on a regular basis. And over the course of the last week, the enemy, the devil, got busy. And he really can only get busy with those things that we allow ourselves to leave way for him to get busy with. For example, if I tell you that I'm going to show up for a particular event in support of you, and I don't show up, you would expect that I had some kind of a reason. Hopefully it was a valid reason, meaning that it was something that it was clear that your intentions were X, but because of circumstances, Y was the result. And, without being all kinds of philosophical, the main issue is if I say that I'm going to do something in support of you and help you, that came out of my mouth. You didn't make me say that. Yeah, you could have pressured me. But if you didn't pressure me and you just asked or I volunteered, then it came out of my mouth and I'm the one who's responsible for following through. And those things that may come up, God willing, if it's not life or death, yeah, I should be able to fulfill my word, keep my word. Okay, especially when things that come up that are of no consequence or intangibles that really aren't that important in the general scheme of things, because no one knows how much time we have here. So I want to talk about from the King James Version, as I said. Let me read it. It's very short. Ephesians 6, second verse, the King James Bible. Honor thy father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it may be well with thee, and thou mayest live long on the earth. And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nature, or bring them in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. And so what I take from that, because I've had a father and a mother, and I have no bones about it that, I may have had an opinion about my father as far as how, perfect he may or may not have been. And those things that I learned at home, I more than likely bring with me. And I have the option of accepting that, or dealing with it, changing it, or whatever. And that has happened on many occasions, which is fine, because I think my father explained, or at least led me to understand, that you do the best you can. You're not here to hurt anybody or to use and abuse anybody. You do what you can. And so I try to impart that to my children. Do what you can. And if you know that you can do better, then you should try to do better. Okay? Because some people accept the B game when you know you have an A game. And it's your decision to bring whichever game you want to bring to the table. Okay? So you say all of that because when your parents or loved ones are gone, you don't want to look back over that last moment that you spoke with them or saw them with disdain over something that was trivial, something that had you taken a deep breath and thought about what was coming out of your mouth. You would have said, I'm not taking that from anybody else, and I really am not going to give it to anybody else. And so, that's life. That's life. We have to check ourselves, and we want to do the best that we can. And sometimes the devil gets busy. He gets busy. He goes in and he'll grab your sentence and take that comma out of it, and suddenly you said something of insult as opposed to a compliment. And you're wondering why the person you're talking to is upset. And then on the other hand, and this is my case and situation, where you tell somebody that they've taken you someplace you don't want to be, and that they should stop. I don't want to go there, so don't take me there. So let's change the topic. Let's move on to something else. And you find yourself so full of, I've got to make this point. You've already lost the point you're trying to make, because they're no longer listening to you. And it's not personal, but if you make it personal by taking offense to it, see, we take offense to things. We may be offended by a number of things, but only we, the person, can accept that offense. If I don't accept it, if I ignore it, if I rebuke it, it goes away. That's what it is. Most of us miss that point, because we're so busy trying to be respected. Respected to who? The only person listening to what was said was you and the person who said it. And if I'm saying something to hurt you or to disrespect you, I know what I'm saying, unless I'm speaking in error, which does happen. But you, on the other hand, have to be the person to say, first off, I'm not looking for any drama in my life, no matter where it's coming from. So why would I even assume that something you said or something was out there that was offensive, was meant for me, or that I have to accept it? I don't have to accept it. I can ignore it. And when you give people respect, if they're ignoring you, you let that go because they just told you, I'm not buying that. I'm not going there with you. What do they say? See you, Felicia. Bye, Felicia. However that goes. But anyway, so my host is upset with me and doesn't really understand. I have to say, I guess it's my fault, that I haven't impressed upon him that, when you do things, that there are consequences. There are things that come back at you. So you want to try to do the right thing. You want to be fair. You want to say to yourself, if that shoe was on my foot, what would I want? What would I do with it? What would I want that other person to do? We're having a conversation and we're passionate about it, or we're just talking. Everybody's very interested, engaged. And then you want to get a word in edgewise. Okay, fine. Since we're having a conversation, that means two people are talking at least. And if someone's excited and they cut you off, then okay, no problem. You still want to get your word in. And then let's just say they cut you off again by mistake, trying to finish their thought, whatever. Is that a criminal crime? Is that something that you should say that, oh my God, you've disrespected me? Oh, how could you do that to me? Oh my God. It was an accident. It's not that serious because we're still talking. You have the floor. Take the floor. Go on and say what you got to say. Okay, you interrupted me. And, well, okay, go on and say what you have to say. You interrupted me. And now, personally, I don't know about you. I tell you straight up, I can only take 3 of those. I just can't. It don't work. Head just doesn't accept that kind of language, especially from someone younger than me and someone who was my child. So while he was feeling disrespected, if you think I wouldn't talk about him, yeah, I'm talking about you. Because that's what they call the repercussions of what you did. And then you gave your word that you would participate in the show, and you didn't because you were mad over a disagreement. It wasn't about money. It wasn't about your girlfriend. It wasn't about your car. It wasn't about your job. It wasn't about your religion. It wasn't about your politics. And you throw everything away over your misunderstanding. Last week's conversation was going to be on how I failed my father. I guess it was a premonition to what was coming today. Um, I personally would not do that. I'd rather say, okay, um, I've got to go to the restroom and go in there and cool off before I came back. And if it was my father, I wouldn't dare open my mouth and say, you disrespected me. When he changed my duty diaper when I didn't know I had a diaper on. When he fed me with his last dollar that he knew he didn't know where the next one was coming from, and he gave me that last meal. I wouldn't open my mouth and say that. The arrogance. But I know it was in his arrogance. He allowed the devil to get busy in his head. It wasn't the first time. And so after the first time when you do something like that and someone tells you, hey, you need to get a grip on that. Anger management is not just a phrase. There's a reason why we have professional people out there. When you know your blood pressure hit 200 and you know you were ready to do something that clearly was going to be a mark on your permanent record, and you didn't go back and try to figure out, how do I get that engaged that I bring myself to that point over something that didn't involve money, didn't involve pain, didn't involve my loved ones, didn't involve my future. When you find yourself that angry over something, you need to look for some way to get some help. I'm your father. I'm here to help you. You come after me, that's not a good thing. That makes absolutely you're gonna disrespect or hurt the help. That makes no sense. It's frightening to think that you could allow yourself to get to that point over the fact that you believe you didn't have a chance to speak. Yeah, I know. Or your laundry on the sidewalk, I know. But you know, one thing about this, you know, we don't talk about these kinds of things. We don't look to understand some of the things that we've done and how we need to better ourselves, or at least be able to really grasp and understand ourselves. Um, you know, and so it's disappointing. But life goes on. It goes on. You know, and you pray and you hope that they seek help, that they get a grip on that, and they realize it's not healthy. It can't be healthy. You take yourself to the point where your head's about to explode over what? Over what, really? And then you have so little disregard for anyone other than yourself that you would dismantle a relationship you're trying to build for a whole lifetime because you can't control yourself. Oh, I love you. I love you. I love you. No, you don't. You love yourself. You love yourself, and you love yourself more than you can have it, more than you can actually love yourself. You're obsessed with yourself. Because when somebody walks by and says, oh, you know, Those some funny looking shoes you got on there. You get disrespected. When someone you love tells you, you have hurt me and taken me to a place where you have made me mad, and I want you to stop, and you disregard it and have the nerve to say that, oh, you cut me off. Being a father is a tough job when you have children that haven't figured it out, that it is a tough job. And that sometimes the things that they do make it harder than what it needs to be because they're so focused on themselves. You Diane, you should be you should be a father. You should be doing it differently. Enable is the word you're looking for. I don't do enabling. That's why I'm your father. They didn't give me that job to enable you. They told me to tell them the truth, help them understand the truth, help them find the truth. I usually refer them to Google, but and I tell them don't take the first thing that they looked at. But anyway, Miss Fowler, let me thank you for your comment. It's not easy when your heart is broken over something that is so trivial. And you know that the enemy is now enabled because there's no filter. You can't turn back to your father and say, oh, gee, I'm sorry I hurt you. Yeah, you could. I know that. Yeah, I know that. But I don't like to be a piñata for anyone because I don't treat people like a piñata. And it's funny how people are. Why would I treat you any differently than how I would want you to treat me? You want love? Be loving. You want understanding? Try understanding. You want to be respected? Give respect. Not just because the Bible says you should. Very few things in the Bible that the Lord says that if you do this, I'll do that. Very few things. Very few. He tells you, I'll take care of you. I got you. Period. And I want to be good to you. Period. He doesn't say, look, be good and I'll do this for you. He will. But he doesn't put it that way. He specifically points out certain things, usually things that kind of bubble out of the pot. They flow over to all kinds of other people. It's not just a personal thing. So if you do it, you impact positively other people. And so he says, I'll reward you for that right now. You don't necessarily have to wait until you get to heaven to get your crown. You can get it right now. But when you find yourself that you can't control your anger, you need help. Preferably from someone who actually has an education in that. And insurance. Okay? Oh, God. He's probably turning up the television now, looking at this. But these are the consequences. Am I supposed to be scared and not say anything? Let me know how that works out for you. Because it ain't gonna. Parents, they change duty diapers, and then when they get old, they throw crap in your face. Tough job. But What's the alternative? We'll talk about that next week. Right here, right now, I want to thank you. Say God bless you. I hope I've said something that was thought provoking, something that might help you in your situation, something that you can refer to, laugh at, or whatever, um, but something that you'll remember. So thank you. I love you. Good night.